Frequently asked questions about becoming a pilot. How do I become a pilot? Take a discovery or an introduction flight. They're about $100 or so, and it'll help you figure out if you actually want to be a pilot. If you do want to start flight training, then you go ahead and you go get yourself a flight physical or a medical certificate from the FAA. You don't need one until you solo, but it's a good idea to see if you have any underlying conditions that might prevent you from getting a medical. And then you go on, you do your flight training, your ground training, and then you pass your written test and your practical test, and then you get your pilot certificate. Do I need to go to a flight school? When people ask that, they usually mean, do I have to go to Embry-Riddle, or do I have to go to a university where I can get my certificates and my ratings and everything? The answer is no. In fact, you don't even need a degree to become a pilot. Think of it as a driver's license. If you want to become a truck driver, you pass a written test, you pass a practical test, and you get your certificate. And that's how it works with flying. You pass practical tests, you pass written tests, and you get a pilot certificate. And if you need another rating, for example a commercial or a multi-engine or an airline transport pilot, that's just more hours, more written tests, and more practical tests, and you'd get those certificates. The answer is no, you don't need to go to a flight school in the sense that it's a university or a college with a flight program. Most people want flight training to be cheap and fairly quick, and for that, you need to look at your nearby airports. One of the ways you can do that is go to skyvector.com, it's an aviation map, and look around your area, see if you can find any circles, those are airports, and you can go and visit the airport and talk to some people there and see if they offer flight instruction. So in that sense, a flight school would be a local flight school at your local airport, and most of them can get you quite a few ratings, if not all of them, all the way up to airline transport pilot. How much does it cost? Unfortunately, the answer is it depends. There's a lot of factors. For one of them, what do you want to do? Do you want to fly for the airlines, or do you want to fly for fun? Do you want to crop dust? Do you want to fly airplanes? Do you want to fly helicopters? It also varies by the individual flight school and the airplanes that they fly. For a quick overview, if you want to fly for the airlines, you need an airline transport pilot certificate, and that means 1,500 hours of flight time. If you want to get a private pilot certificate, that takes a minimum of 40 hours, it's about 85 on average, and that will cost you about $10,000. If you want to add on an instrument rating, that's another $6,000-7,000 or so. To add a commercial on top of that, that's another $6,000 or so. And for that certificate, you need 250 hours minimum. So the $6,000 is not to get you the 250 hours you need for the commercial pilot certificate. That's for the training with an instructor to get you ready for your practical test for the commercial check ride. Then for a multi-engine rating, it's about another $3,000 or so. There's no hour requirements. And then for a flight instructor, it's another $3,000 to $5,000 more, and there's also no specific flight time requirements. And then for an airline transport pilot certificate, that's $5,000 to $10,000 or so, but to get that you need at least 1,500 hours, and that's not how much 1,500 hours costs. For most people, if they want to become an airline pilot, the pathway is to get your private instrument commercial multi-engine flight instructor, and then instruct and build flight time so you can get to 1,500 hours. Instead of flight instructing, some people find commercial jobs like crop dusting or like skydiver operations or something like that to build those 1,500 hours. Now keep in mind, additional costs to this are for your medicals, they're between $75 and $250. Check rides, they're $350 to $550, and then for each one of your knowledge tests that you have to pass, they're $140 to about $160 or so. So how do I pay for it? Do you have any rich friends or family that could pay for it? You can also get a job and flight instruct once you get the certificates. If you're really an aviation nut, you could work at the airport. Maybe you could help tow airplanes or fill them up or something like that. It doesn't pay much, but it's still a job. You can take out a loan. You can get a scholarship. Some people choose to go to the military and then use the GI Bill to pay for flight training, or if they're lucky enough, they'll get a slot in the Air Force. And for those wanting to go into the airlines, there are now pathway programs or cadet programs or something with a similar name. Do I need a degree? It depends. If you want to fly for the major airlines, here are screenshots of Delta, United, and American. Delta requires it, and the other two don't. If all you want to do is become a private pilot and fly for fun, there's no requirement whatsoever. You don't even need to finish high school. Will I pass my medical? Here's a list of things that the doctor looks for. You might not pass a medical because you don't meet some of these standards on the list, but there are a lot of waivers and statements of demonstrated ability where you can prove to the FAA that you can reliably and at an equivalent level of somebody who can pass the medical operate the airplane safely. So the best way to know if you will pass your medical is to go and do it, and if you don't pass it, figure out if there's a way you can get a waiver or maybe change something and then go from there. If I fly a flight simulator, will I be a better pilot, or can it be easier to learn something? Once again, it depends. If you're just starting flight training and you don't exactly know what's going on, you can build some pretty bad habits in this flight simulator. It is a great tool though if you're going through flight training. Just sit down and chair fly a little bit and maybe practice the things that you're learning in the flight lessons. And it's really good for an instrument rating because you can actually practice your scans and things like that. So yes and no, it might help you. It might make it worse if you don't know what you're doing and you're not flight training. You can build some bad habits. What gear or what equipment do I need? Most everybody now is using iPads with ForeFlight. ForeFlight is an app for navigation and for charts and things like that. Depending on the cockpit size and layout and how much space you have, an iPad mini might be the best choice, and it also fits on your knee really nice. At some point, you might also want to get a headset. A lot of places you can rent a headset from, but having your own is always a good idea. Flight bag. Now these get oversold like diamonds. People just go nuts and buy flight bags. You don't really need anything fancy, just a backpack or something, a duffel where you can throw some things in. Basically, you want to carry some of your stuff with you. Something else that'll definitely help you is a knee board. This is basically a small clipboard that you can wrap around your knee with some Velcro. It really helps when you need to copy down some instructions or write something down. What kind of airplanes will I be flying? Chances are you'll start with a single engine Cessna or something similar like a Piper or something like that, and then you'll move on to bigger and better airplanes from there. Usually if you want to keep it cheap, you keep the airplane simple and small. So if you were to fly a multi-engine airplane for your private pilot training, that's just twice the amount of fuel. Also, the airplane costs more, so they'll make you pay more for rental, etc., etc., etc. So, small planes starting out, you'll probably fly everything single engine until you get your multi-engine, and then you'll probably go back to single engine for flight instructor rating, and then even when you flight instruct, you'll probably most likely be in a single engine airplane. Those are all the frequently asked questions I could think of. If you have any more, leave them in the comments below. And if you're on Reddit, r/flying, there's quite a few resources for you to figure out how to become a pilot and maybe answer any of the questions that you might have. Until next time, have fun, fly safe, and always keep learning. See you next time.